Helps to have power.
Mic check, test, test, test.
Good evening. There being a quorum present, this regular session of the Howe City Council is hereby called to an order on Tuesday, June 18, 2024 at 6 p.m. under the Open Meetings Act of the State of Texas. If you will, please remove your hats and silence your cell phones, and let's stand for our prayer and pledge. Councilwoman Sarah Meyer, please.
Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for the privilege to be here serving you and serving the city. I pray that you give each of us wisdom as we make decisions, and that we can move forward in peace in whatever we do for the citizens.
Amen. Now for the pledges. Thank you. Please be seated. The City Council invites citizens to speak to the council on topics not already scheduled for public hearing or on the agenda. Citizens may address the council for a maximum of 2 minutes. The council is unable to respond to or discuss any issues that are brought up during this section that are not on the agenda, other than to make a statement of specific factual information in response to a citizen's inquiry or to recite existing policy in response to the inquiry. I did not receive any comment forms. Is there anyone for the public that does need to speak? Moving on to mayor comments. The Howe Hump Day Network Breakfast is held every first Wednesday of the month from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. at Summit Gardens. Everyone is welcome to attend. Consent items. These items consist of non-controversial or housekeeping items required by law. Items may be considered individual by any council member making such request prior to a motion and vote on the consent items. 1, discuss, consider, and act upon the consent items which are marked by an asterisk. These items are minutes of regular council meeting, May 21, 2024, bills being paid for the month, detailed check register report, statement of revenue and expenditures, independent financial, secure deposits, May 30, 2024, recap, and standings, May 2024. Does the council wish to discuss these items? And if not, do I have a motion to approve them?
I will motion to approve them.
Billy makes a motion to approve. Michael makes a second. All in favor? Everyone is in favor. Any opposed? None are opposed. Action items. 1, discuss, consider, and act upon authorizing city staff to designate official email and address to receive Public Information Act requests and to establish related postings and procedures. Does the council wish to discuss this item? And if not, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Sean makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Billy makes a second. All in favor? Everyone is in favor. Any opposed? None are opposed. Item number 2, discuss, consider, and act upon removing Sarah Myrick from all bank accounts and adding Mayor Pro Tem Billy Ingram. Does the council wish to discuss this item? And if not, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Sean makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Sorry, I heard Sarah second. All in favor? Everyone? Anyone opposed? Well, everyone except for
Yes, ma'am.
Billy. Billy, are you abstaining?
Yes, ma'am.
Billy is abstaining. And none are opposed. Item number 3, discuss, consider, and act upon approving and authorizing the mayor and the city administrator to sign pre-development and professional services agreement with Centurion American Acquisitions. Mr. Sean Terry is here, and I think he has a short presentation. If you will, do you mind coming up to? Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, Mayor and Council, thank you very much. I just kind of want to come tonight. You know, we've got 2 different parcels we're looking at, and my ask is maybe next council meeting if we could come back, and tonight we started, doing the agreements to have staff and people start really looking at it. But we have 2 pieces of parcel, one that's in a mud today that's currently has a development agreement on it. One piece is in the ETJ, not in the city. We want to look at doing kind of one agreement for both of those, bringing it into the city, but look at a TERS and a PID on it. And what I would like to do is, if y'all are open to this next month, come back, let me bring our experts and really just have an open conversation about why we feel like a PID and a TERS combination is better than a MUD. And I think, Monty and them's been great at staff level. We've talked about this for a few months now, but we're now at the point that we're ready to really move forward with it and see if we can make something work like that with the reasons that we do a lot of PID and TERS in a lot of cities, and how we think the current development agreement today has a $4 million payment that needs to be paid. We want to come in and do another $4 million. If we can make this work, we'll give you a total of $8 million that we think will help towards your sewer and all that. So I didn't want to disrespect your time tonight, but I wanted to be here to say, hey, if you're open to that, allow us to come back next month. Let's have an open discussion about it and see if there's something we can get worked out.
Thank you. I think we are open to hearing what he would have to say.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, sir. Does the council wish to discuss approving and authorizing the mayor and city administrator to sign pre-development and professional service agreement with Centurion American Acquisitions? And if not, do I have a motion to approve?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So what have we done in the past? Have we not had the city administrator and the mayor sign these in the past?
You stated and/or there.
Okay.
Sorry.
So have we, I'm just not understanding, I mean, have we got into professional service agreements before?
Yeah, it's been pretty long for them to just be put on the agenda, just to be approved for signature. Sometimes it's been an action item, sometimes it's even been consent. So it's been our practice to just go ahead and have those officially approved by council since they are contracts.
Understand, okay, gotcha. I make a motion that we approve.
Okay, Michael makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Sarah makes a second. All in favor? Everyone? Anyone opposed? None are opposed. Item number 4, discuss, consider, and act upon opening an interest-bearing account with Independent Financial entitled Development Escrow Funds. Does the council wish to discuss this item? And if not, do we have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay. Ricky makes a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
A second.
Sean makes a second. All in favor? Everyone? Any opposed? None are opposed. We are going to move our budget workshop to after the executive session. Moving on to executive session, City Council will convene into closed session pursuant to the provisions of the Open Meetings Act, Chapter 551, Texas Government Code. Executive session is authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551.071. Consultation with an attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter, Open Meetings Act. Texas Government Code Section 551.072, deliberation regarding real property. Texas Government Code Section 551.074, personnel matters. Discussion items are personnel, police chief, public works director. The time is 6:09 p.m. I do too.
Like the executive chairs? 100%. 100%. I don't know. I don't trust these. And, that's why my legs are on fire right now, because I've been squatting pretty much this entire time. Because
Into open session. The time is 8:21 PM. There is no action item under.
I think it's best that we let Chief Monet refill.
Absolutely.
These have not been shared with the employees, obviously, so.
I think I have.
I'd like to present at least the first portion. These are very obviously budget numbers in pencil. That's why we do these, so the council has a chance to look over, and I'm sure you'll have a lot to address the fire department section, so that I know he's been waiting a long time, so we'll just try to let him answer any questions and kind of go over that portion. Chief?
Of course. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. I can try to explain to the best of my ability of what things are going for and what the numbers
maybe giving us the contract
for the county EMS section.
Yeah, something beyond our city limits.
So that right now is still under further discussion from Sarah Summers, and which all run our county as of now. They're all willing to give up their county. It's the money is what's tying everything up right now, is what we're trying to figure out with the county side of how we can get that money from the departments without. Right now, I'm being told there's going to be no raises, no money from the county as our pockets for our coverage area.
Basically, they just give up a portion of.
They have to give up a portion of it,
County's giving them.
but of course, what department wants to give up money when they've been getting it? So that's where we're at right now, is trying to figure out how.
Are we close to that? Because I'm assuming.
We're
that
on the fence right now. Everybody's willing to give up the area. They want,
If they give up the area, they got to give up the funds.
that's exactly
Because I'm
it.
sure their councils are.
Now with people doing preliminary budget discussions and workshops of how we can get that.
There's like a sense of urgency. How do they feel about?
Okay, perfect, thank you. I'm sorry.
How does Summers and Dawsey feel about these, right? Van Alstine, and did you say who else was a gunner, or
No, that's just the three of them.
just those three? Okay.
Just those three, yes,
Are
sir.
they okay with them giving up?
They're okay with them giving up the area as a location and getting funds from the county is where we're at right now.
And that'll kind of go.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry.
Last year.
Because that's what we can handle, that's what we've hired these people for. That's what our citizens in this community needs, not to go run a transfer to Dallas and then we leave our city uncovered and something happens.
We would have to have more vehicles.
We'd have to have at least another ambulance, and we'd have to have at least more staff. That's the minimum to be able to do that. Which is why it's 0 this year, and it was projected the year before.
So we've been running, and have we been receiving billing? Has it?
I've been told that we have been receiving funds, and we have made, for our first 30 days, we've made quite the improvement, quite the addition. We don't have to touch any of that, and that's how we get the best of the return rate from us, to us. We are projected. Now, these are projection numbers. These can get bigger, these can get a little bit smaller because I can't control the 911 system of how that works. Is right at that $150,000 mark from our first 30 days. If they continue and they have with us.
Does that take into account the addition of houses that we'll have?
Houses and the call volume is what will help our billing increase with this.
And
cemented, but the more we get, the more houses we get, the more people we get, the more we in the positive in public safety. Fire and PD is always going to be a negative. There's nothing I can do to control that. Sherman, Denison, Anna, Dallas, they work in millions of dollars deficit, or a billing department does. So we're always going to be we're always going to be a negative. I'll be 100% honest with you with that. And that's all public safety, anything you do. Yes, ma'am.
It's 24/7 coverage.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, and it's kind of built into their schedule.
That's built into their schedule, the 24/48 schedule, yes, sir. It had 0 on there this previous year because it was overlooked and it wasn't put in our approximate figure for this next year to pay the overtime.
The life safety equipment, is that just purchasing of new, or is that just keeping up with what we have?
So the life safety equipment I put in there, that's actually, I can't take any more people on because I'm literally out of equipment to give people to fight fires and to keep them in something that's going to protect them in case something happens down the road.
Vehicle purchase or vehicle lease for the battalion?
So there's 2 different vehicle leases there. The first one is for our payments on the ambulances.
Okay.
That we have now. So we put that in there for the hopes of being able to do that.
Have you been looking at what you need or what's going to be reasonable for a battalion vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else have any questions or comment about fire and EMS? Monty, do you have any comments on it? Okay. Anything else, Chief?
That's it so far. Everything's going smooth, is what I can say. So it's been great so far, so
Okay.
Other than that, any other questions?
I'd like to thank Chief Monet. He runs a real tight ship over there. We have 0 issues with our fire department. They're all,
Chief, I will say and relay to be here.
I don't know that we were told about a deficit running this operation than what we anticipated coming in. And a lot of that is due to manipulate that schedule. Ridge and Ponderosa Point, so you can tell that our permit revenue has increased quite a bit. Now, those are projections, but we feel confident about that. We did make some changes in the projected. We do anticipate a more accurate number on sales tax. I know we did an amendment throughout the year. I think our last one was in January where we kind of corrected that a little bit, but that's a more accurate number of $474,263 for sales tax, which these are conservative numbers. So our admin revenues are $2.6 million. Over on the expenditure side, of course, you've got your typical things. Now, you'll find it on the community services page because I think there's some cleaning up to do with some of these categories, and we just kind of want to grab that right now, especially since we're moving into the new software. We'll reallocate those things properly.
Can you talk about the due on page?
Off of what's been placed for this past year. $6,000 worth of dues. I'm not sure exactly, where those are coming from. They're certainly not Rotary dues or anything like that. But
And then the election fees, they have increased.
so election fees would be. That's a very conservative. The $8,000. So that's if we are the only election held. Obviously, if the ISD has an election, and we were the only election, so we paid the whole thing. So I don't want to budget for only paying a third or only paying half or whatever the number would be. it's best to go ahead.
Control, is this basically just us paying?
That is our dog service that we annually contract. That was, I'm not sure if that was new or, okay. So it's budgeted, they're not taking
So
animals.
even if we just said we're not going to do with All-American, we still have no way of doing things like we did before where we load them up and we have nowhere to take them.
Unless we have a code enforcement officer who has an actual pickup and a cage instead of a Jeep.
We try to pass that charge off on
Right.
the dog.
Right.
Or the cat or whatever.
Is that something you might want Monty to talk to Ben about, to see if he has
It was
a,
my understanding that they were going, like over towards Gunner Gainesville.
And by the time they get here from Pilot Point, that dog's long gone.
Well, I've compiled majority of the reports that were given, and it's, you know, they drive around looking for it, unable to find it, and they speak to somebody at City Hall, and then they wait for another call. And, I mean, I get needing a service, I guess, if Sherman's not taken to be the police department either. Let's go ahead and get that out there. That should not be their job. A dog, unless the owner is known at the time, we just may need to look at something. It may be a little late for that now, but
I don't think it's too late. I've talked to Ben about it, and that's what's preferred. That's what we need, is some that service that's offered somewhere other than lost on some of this.
what are they doing?
Yeah,
What
and
is Whitewright or Van Alstyne?
right. And some of them aren't doing it.
It's just
It's just not a service.
We still, I mean, because, you know, people calling in, because what's going to happen is that call then gets directed to the police department. And I don't think.
It is very expensive. As far as salaries go, the reason in the difference in the number there on page 2 for admin is that court clerk was not. Our utilities are lower by 4,000. And I'm now having the Collins Memorial Fund pay for the utilities for this building. Now that we're generating revenue from this bill, cover costs of the electric, water, and things like that. So that's why the You ready to move into police department?
I think we are.
Okay. Building, another 5,000. There is a mold issue in that building, and that building does require a lot of work. Now, we have filed an insurance claim after these last storms in May, and we'll have to see what the results of those are. But even with the insurance claim, if there's for Chief Hudman, but I would most likely think that this would pay the threshold for that insurance claim. But if not, then that would be money spent on that building to get it, up to snuff, so to speak. He requested we're not having to restructure the whole city with new servers and things like that. But he requested an increase in IT because of other items that they use. Let's see. He did not request, last year was budgeted for 6 officers, and when you take all of those and you have all 6 officers, including, it's the overtime that was budgeted last year that inflated that number up to about 90,000. So that's where the adjustment was made.
Need to in order to have a fully year without having those positions staffed that it is called for.
Vehicle operation stays the same. Vehicle lease the same. The chief vehicle allowance is factored into this budget where it was not previous year. The The chief did request an F-150, another one. So I haven't listed it here, but that's something for the council to certainly consider. And he wanted to retire a couple of Chargers. So, if there's nothing else in police and the PD, we'll move on to streets. It's virtually the same. Insurance has increased to $4,000. Supplies up to $25,000. I want to be able to have the guys to have the proper mix to be able to fill potholes. So that's an increase of $11,000. And the street repair would be the same amount we were able to do. We got 5 street projects going on right now. I would anticipate another 5 next year if the budget allows. So that's the goal. Community service, some of these are library contracts. And so the $42,860 is the library contract that we are responsible for. Let's see, park department, same. Summit Garden maintenance I took out from community service because I put that in the Collins Memorial Fund. Same way with Summit Gardens cleaning, we're now having this building cleaned every other week. And so that's that'll be in the Collins Memorial. Animal contract, you'll see there, that's the $30,000 where it was moved from admin. And then the mowing contract will be under community service for $13,000. Yes.
Back on streetlights, when we talk about developments like Howe and the possibility for needing more navigation and more lights in different places because there's going to be more traffic, how do you, if we don't see any change, do you think that those changes aren't going to come in this next year, or do you think that?
No, that's a very good question. And there probably should be an adjustment there because depending on the way we negotiate these deals with the developers, we either pay a lower rate with Encore if we own the lights and we're responsible for them, and but if Encore owns the lights and they do all the repairs to them and things like that, then we pay a higher rate. And so it just depends on which direction the council wants to go there, but that's a very good point, that number shouldn't be a break even because we'll definitely have an adjustment there.
And we do have, those impact fees, right? We have to be able to cover some of that.
I'm sorry.
We will have some of those impact fees coming our way.
So we're going to do an impact study.
Right. It's not impact fees. My thought process is following the wrong thing. Somebody else knows what I'm talking about.
The permit fees, is that what you're talking about?
The other fees with the developers.
The permit fees,
Yeah.
inspection fees, yeah.
To be able to cover some of that increase.
Yes, but I'd rather make the adjustment in the street lights.
Yeah, okay.
So I'll make note of that. Very good point. Anything else on community service? We've touched on the fire department. Solid waste, we're still under contract. As we grow, we will have more charges, and also we will have more revenue. But those things should, we don't make a lot in solid waste. It's very minimal. So we're looking at a revenue of $468,000, which is a little bit of a bump from last year. But our expenditures also increased by about the same amount, or not quite as much, but Our contract services, as you remember, Ted came in a few months ago, and we had that little increase, so that's factored into that. Under solid waste, we have our code enforcement. That's his salary, is listed under that department. And that is not a reduction in salary. The original budget was not correct, and we made that budget amendment. So that number is more than last year based upon the salary raise that we're proposing, which is 3.5%. Everything else is kind of similar. There's a little jump in the sales tax expense, which I'm trying to still wrap my head around on paying sales tax, but the best I can understand there is we do have some churches and stuff that we have to pay for solid waste, and I really scratched my head over that back in September when I first got in, but that is a relative expense. We'll move into wastewater. Increase the revenue because of the growth that we expect to see to $1,060,209. Obviously, we have a lot of charges on wastewater, I'm sorry. One example is, we've had this massive rainfall, and for the new council members, I'll give you an example of what happens. So every city, we're not unique, every city has infiltration into their water line and their sewer lines. We're no different. However, they have their own sewer plant, so it doesn't really affect them. They can absorb some of that I&I, whereas we are metered on everything that goes into our sewer line at the point down there where Sherman meters us. So when we've had substantial rainfall, as we have the previous month, our sewer bill from Sherman is generally about $50,000 a month on average. It was $30,000 one month, which I thought was fabulous, but that didn't stay for a while. But when we had this substantial rainfall, our sewer bill to Sherman last month was $168,000. So it's substantial. So the faster we can get our package plant and get this land purchased, the more money we can save. Now, this is for this fiscal year. So this is assuming we don't have a package plant before next year, next October. So if we're able to purchase land and put a package plant on that property, which is feasible within this year, obviously that cost, the contract sewer cost goes down because we're able to sever that contract. So that's obviously the goal, but it's budgeted in a way that, we just don't know. So.
They did smoke studies and they did some I&I repairs?
Not necessarily repairs, but caps. There were a lot of caps that were missing. So we went out and put some caps on some clean outs, and there's still really more smoke testing to do. But they did find quite a bit. A lot of it was just caps. The biggest problem is the Mayo Street lift station. That one takes in water. I mean.
Is it still just a steel plate just laying over top of the concrete hole?
It's a problem. And if I knew we were going to pay $168,000 a month in our sewer contract, I would, we would speed up the process of just fixing that issue. And that's come up. We're at 0 taps left for our sewer. 0. We have none. And, we have people trying to buy property and go for residential and commercial, and we're out of taps. So those are some of the things that I'm starting to negotiate. When somebody comes and wants some sewer taps,
hey, if you want to fix our lift station as part of the negotiating, that'll open up some taps. So whether they're willing to come to the table with that, we'll find out. But about 150,000. So it's not an insurmountable amount, but at some point it has to be repaired. It just has to. Whether we have a package plan or not, it needs to be repaired. But if we have a package plan, it won't be as high of a priority as it is right now, but it certainly is. We in wastewater, we do have our public works guys. Their salaries are reflected in there, and that's on you can see that on your individual employee sheet.
Can you talk a little bit about, under wastewater, the supplies reflecting $18,000, whereas last budget there was nothing? Same thing for real property for $11,000?
Yeah. Obviously, there are supplies associated with wastewater. I'm not sure why it wasn't budgeted last year.
So it just simply was not budgeted?
It wasn't budgeted. Those are the expenditures and projections that we have from this year that have come out during this budget year that weren't accounted for. So I didn't want to leave it out because we are absorbing some of those supply costs. The real property, I'm going to make myself a note to investigate exactly what that was. Again, these are some department heads gave these to me, and I need to ask some more questions, like the real property, for sure. Any other standouts in wastewater? Water sales projections 1.15. That is somewhat of an adjustment needs to be made there. These are off of, again, projections that we have currently. As the summer progresses, we'll have different numbers on that. It'll go up, and that will be factored in. We will have more water sales due to the fact that we will have more doors. So that is a very low ball number that will need to be reflected.
So dues, is that just like various fees that are due? And because it went up also from 300 to 1,500.
Yeah, again, I'll investigate the dues.
Okay.
Because those are being categorized right now over the past budget year. A lot of times when they don't know what things are, they'll put them in different categories, whereas it should be attributed maybe somewhere else. And I'll get with Michelle and pull all of those dues and reallocate those properly.
Thank you.
What about the take or pay underwater? I thought we were taking, so we weren't any less there.
We are taking, and our take or pay is $432,000, which is more in line with what we had last year. Now we're trying to keep that number under our threshold because it triggers at a certain point. That's why this number here last year was $264,000 take or pay. That was grossly underestimated. That's why we had a $100,000 payment in September or October that was just unexpected. So I didn't want to account for any unexpected expenses. So that's why that number is there, and that is a threshold number. Again, we're trying to stay under that threshold where we're using as much well water as we can. But as we grow, we're going to need more GTUA water, and we're going to, you know, we're actually boring under 75 in a few weeks, where we'll have a full loop on GTUA, and we can use it all on the west side of town too.
Plus, we use more water in the summer months.
So that's the reason that number is much higher than last year, because I don't want to be snuck upon with a $100,000 bill again.
Backhoe lease.
Last year, we purchased the backhoe, and that's what that is. I think we paid $50,000 last year. We'll pay $50,000 this year. We'll pay $50,000 next year, and I think we're done. If that's the right amount. I think there's another year. I have to look at it to see. But, I'm sorry?
How much does it cost to buy one?
Well, that was one of the things. We wanted to purchase it, but we didn't have the full cash to do that, so municipalities lease these machines. So same way with police vehicles and fire vehicles and those things like that. But generally, we have an annual payment that's due on that. So that's very typical. But we approved that last year, so factored that into the budget. Salaries. So those are our public works. Our wastewater, previously I stated our wastewater was public works. That's actually our public works director. So
The overtime you have here, that's just basically for any of the emergencies that come up? Because they're not really, they don't have overtime built into their schedule, do they?
these are based upon basically 200 hours of overtime for our 4 employees that are in that department. Now, that doesn't mean that you're getting to work 200 hours of overtime, but it is factored in there as a, just in case. Again, rather have it in the budget and not need it than need it and not have it in the budget. Anything else there in water? The Type B Corporation, we had our first budget workshop a couple weeks ago. Our expected revenue for the Community Development Corporation is $159,582.30. Again, that's not a lot of growth factored in that whatsoever, just a minimum growth. The expenditures we're looking at this year, we want to improve Hash Field, the backstop over there. I mean, I really hate to throw any money on those ball fields because I know our goal is Jones Park. But it is, I mean, Mr. Ingram will tell you, the backstop at Hash is in very bad shape. It's at least 40 years old. So if we're going to stay over there for any amount of time, we've got to improve those fields while we're there. So that's what's factored in there. $10,000 for the, we're calling it a comp plan, but it's more of a strategic plan. And when we, this is not related to the budget, but when we contract this group, we're also looking at a plan that will involve the council and involve the P&Z. So it's more of a learning process for everyone. But the CDC is going to foot the bill for at least $10,000 of that. We've budgeted $5,000 for EDC grants. I think we're going to we've done this every year. We've only used one grant, and that's coming up of $1,000. So public utilities for our sewer, when we're in a situation of trying to wean ourselves off of using all of this community development funds for the city's general fund, it's hard to just rip the Band-Aid. So we're still allocating $34,000 for sewer projects from the CDC. So that's why that's still in there. It's again from last year. Some board members are heavily against the CDC funding for the city sewer. But again, when we went from taking virtually all the CDC money and moving it over to moving only 34,000, that's a pretty significant decrease in spending. And allows us to do more actual CDC projects. And then speaking of projects, that number is $90,182.30. We do have an agreement with be careful, an owner of a property. We have a first right of refusal on that property, which is crucial to our development. So we put that in the budget in case something comes up. We can make that move. Collins Memorial, again, this is revenue, $14,500. That's about average over the past couple of years. And cleaning and utilities takes us to $13,200. That's a small profit, but at least it's paying for itself now, which is, I think, very good. So, with all of that, our proposed revenues, $5,702,943, and not proposed, just a workshop, not a proposal. The expenditures are $5,692,809. So will leave us about $10,000 in the black at this point.
Which is very conservative.
Very conservative. That's not factoring in, the ad valorem that I'm using here is not factoring in any additional homes. So now, because we don't know, even though we've pulled 25 permits, that doesn't mean the houses are going to go up immediately. Just in case, if we have another health crisis or whatever, I don't want to factor that money in and it not come through. So that is a conservative number on the ad valorem revenue. With
Lonnie,
that,
I have a question.
Yes.
When you get a minute. Ben had mentioned in his departmental report that spraying for mosquitoes is currently being scheduled. So is that factored into this as well? And if so, is that under community services or is it under solid waste?
it's not factored in. It's about a $600 expenditure.
Okay. And then, can we get some, possibly, maybe try to get an update from Ben as far as animal control, because that's costing us $30,000? And how much are we using that? How much have we used that in this last year? I mean, just to make sure that, you know, we're using that money wisely.
Right. Okay. With all being said, I guess the thesis of this is that on a conservative number, granted, in order to hit our ad valorem and everything we need, I think we're looking at about a 57 cent tax rate based upon these numbers. Now, that's 4 cents more than last year. That is the same tax rate the city of Howe had for about 4 years straight prior to COVID. So it's not an inordinate number, but that would be the estimate right now. So actually 57 cents would get us to, 1.4 million in ad valorem. So I just want you to be aware that's what we're looking at. And The only reason for that is because of the EMS services. That is the underlying factor of why we have to consider that, is because of the severe deficit of $700,000 annually to run that operation. So, now that's a benefit to the citizens, but it also comes with a price. So,
We just need to get on and make it a priority to get with emergency management.
and that's another thing, that's not,
We need that county contract to help with some of that.
and we met with Sarah Summers, and rightfully so. She said that, we didn't factor you into EMS this year because you've got to prove yourself. And I totally understand that. And she brought up the past couple of years and all the downfalls, and it's public information. I'm not saying anything that hadn't been out there, but we've got to prove ourselves in that department. And so I understand that, and I also appreciate her allowing us to work with other fire chiefs and doing what Chief Monet's doing to try to, I really don't think that they care where the pie is split. It's just, here's the pie, and if y'all want to configure that, more realistic, she sounds very open to that. And so that doesn't factor in any of that. So perhaps if we're able to carve out, whatever, some of that pie in county money, if Chief Monet's able to do that, that obviously helps the bottom line.
And I appreciate the other cities' willingness to work with us as well.
Yeah. So that's the first budget workshop.
We will, and I did not write those dates down, but we do have another workshop at the next regular council meeting. Is
Next
our
regular
next
council
workshop.
meeting. And then the plans are, actually the next 2 regular meetings, I think a special meeting September 10th, and final budget September 17th. And that would also be our tax, would set the tax rate that night also. So.
Any questions from the council or comments?
No, ma'am.
Okay, if there is no further business to come before this council, this meeting stands adjourned at 9:18 p.m.